Welcome back to Eye on Foxborough. I'm Karen Guregian. Today, I'm pleased to welcome back former Patriot quarterback Jim Miller, who is the co-host of Moving the Chains with Pat Kerwin on SiriusXM NFL Radio. He's also a studio analyst on the Bears postgame live for NBC Sports in Chicago. Hi, Jim.
How we doing? Good to be with you again.
Yeah, wow, we got a big Bears Patriots game coming up on Sunday. Well, the Bears are 4-4. Patriots are 2-7. How would you sum up what you've seen from the Bears so far?
I think up until last week, I think Matt Eberflus had the team playing extremely hard and playing extremely well together. Obviously the debacle 2 weeks ago, the Hail Mary loss to Washington Commanders, there was kind of a hangover effect last week on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. Bears really didn't stop the run. Then after the game, there's a lot of finger pointing by veterans about the coaching staff, about how Tyreek Stevenson, the player who really wasn't paying attention on that Hail Mary pass, he was disciplined. I guess the disciplining didn't go well. So I think Matt Eberflus is really being tested right now because there were no chinks in the armor up until this loss to Arizona. The offense has struggled mightily. The defense has played hard, but last week I thought was the first time that they got gashed against the run versus James Conner, and they just look like a collection of individuals out there.
So obviously, the Patriots have a first-round quarterback, number 3 overall. The Bears have the first overall pick, Caleb Williams. Um, I read he had, sort of been coming along, but it's sort of dipped the past few games. And it's also interesting to me reading similar scenarios to what with Drake Maye. One, the offensive line is woeful in Chicago. And two, I guess the play caller Shane Waldron has come under some fire. Are all those things accurate?
Well, I think when the OC's got to apologize to the team now twice, we're only 9 games in, and he's already apologized for play calls twice. So I never think that's good. So to me, it's a lot of the veterans are the ones that are complaining the most. And, from what I understand, Caleb Williams has been the one to kind of keep everybody together on the offensive side of the ball. But you're correct, Karen. The offensive line has been a sieve. Veteran players really haven't come through, like Keenan Allen and DJ Moore specifically, that their leadership is expected. And I think some of the pouting that's gone on is really kind of just sour grapes from the leaders that were brought in to insulate Caleb. And he's the one, like I said, that's handling it the best. But they've got 2 weeks to get it down to or get it together before their division games. And their schedule down the stretch is way more difficult than what they've already played, and they're only 4-4. Their 4 wins really don't look all that great when you beat the Rams without the 2 receivers there, and Tennessee without the quarterback making all kinds of mistakes. So they're not very signature wins, is what I'd say.
Have you been able to get a gauge on Caleb, or are the circumstances around him too difficult to know just how good he is or will be in the NFL?
No, I do. I saw him at training camp. I think the veteran players gravitate to him. It is not too big of a moment for him. He keeps his calm, his wits about him. He has been anything but what was reported about him in the media. He's not a drama queen. He's not looking for storylines. His dad has stayed out of the equation. Everybody's like, "Oh, his dad's going to be a whole problem," and really, it's been Roma Dunze's parents have been a bigger problem than Caleb Williams' parents. So, I think he's been everything the Bears wanted him to be. I think he's got good command. I think he's got good. He's a good leader. I think he's tough. I think the mistakes he doesn't get down. I just think he's been a nice, even keel, and I like his demeanor and his command about him. And like I said, to me, he's been the one positive influence of anybody on offense.
Um, I saw, did he injure an ankle, and is he going to be okay? Will we see him Sunday in Chicago?
Yeah, he rolled it late in the game against Arizona, but he said he'll be fine. And I think even Coach Eberflus, thinks it's a minor issue that he'll be able to go and be able to play against the Pats this weekend.
Hmm. Let's flip to the Patriots guy, Drake Maye. Um, I know you interviewed him at the Combine, and you've probably watched to see the four or so games that he started. Your impressions of him?
I like him. I liked him coming out of college. I think he's got a big arm. I think he's got a live arm. I think he's a lot better athlete than what people thought. I think out of the 5 games, I think he led the Patriots 3 times in rushing since he
It's
started.
true. Yep.
And he's had the flash plays to show his arm. He's got 6 touchdowns in 5 games. I think that says a little bit about him too. And they've been big plays. That I think where you see the athleticism, I think you see the talent. He's the son of a coach. So, like when I talked to him at the combine, a lot of it was X's and O's related, and he was ripping off plays and why they were, why he liked those specific plays. So I do think his knowledge is a lot deeper quarterback wise than what people think, just due to his father and his background.
Hmm. I don't know if you saw, you probably did because just about everyone has seen that final play in regulation against the Titans last week when he's buying time for almost 12 seconds. You're a former quarterback. Did you, like everyone else, go holy bleep when you saw how that play worked out and he somehow saw Ramondre Stevenson?
Yeah, I mean, it just some things can't be coached. And you just make a great play. And again, he's got a big arm. He's a good athlete. I don't think he's probably as physically strong as say like a Josh Allen or a Justin Herbert, but he's strapped together pretty good. And I think when you look at how Jaden Daniels has performed, how Caleb Williams has performed, and how Drake Maye has performed, it's hard to argue that those guys probably should have been the first 3 quarterbacks taken in the draft.
Mm. How unusual is that? That again, the way it looks, those top three guys are going to be what each franchise hoped that they'd be.
Yeah.
Usually, only maybe there's one of the three. If you're
Mhm.
lucky, two of the top, the top three
Yeah.
quarterbacks that go. You have them, and you have the kid in Denver, and it looks like a
And
pretty,
Penix, and
yeah,
think about Penix hasn't even played. So all
yeah.
of them look to be hits so far because I think Penix is going to be a hit as well. And Sean Payton's going to bring Bo Nix along the right way. We know he was in a heavy shotgun offense out there at Oregon. Sean's kind of incorporating him in that style of offense, but ultimately he'll work him into where he's doing stuff under center as well, much like he did with Drew Brees. It'll just take a little time, but I think Sean's breaking Bo Nix in the right way, much like I think Alex Van Pelt. I think he's doing a nice job with Drake Maye. I really do.
Does it surprise you that the Patriots are 2-7, even though they're in a so-called rebuilding year?
Yeah, I am. I thought they'd be a little bit further along, because like you said, I know they've been trying to get things settled on their offensive line. They probably didn't want to throw Drake Maye to the wolves, but defensively, Patriots should have been up and running. This has been a top 10 defense for God knows how many years. And now without guys like Juwan Bentley, it's got a couple of chinks in its armor, but it's still pretty formidable, even with trading away guys like Josh Uche and Matthew Judon.
The way the Patriots have been, or Alex, Alex doesn't want to have design plays for Drake. He's fine. Let him scramble if he has to scramble. What's the situation like with Caleb? Do they have design plays for him, or is he more like, he'll take off if he feels the need?
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, the big I guess the big roadblock, should I say, for the veterans, I guess Shane Waldron doesn't script the top 15 plays like most OCs do. Because normally in those top scripted plays, you're kind of rolling through personnel groupings to see how a defense is going to line up. And I guess Shane just doesn't do that and hasn't done that in his past. And I think some of the veterans took exception to it. Like, that your top 15 script is almost like a cheat sheet. You know what to expect. And hey, if they do this, we're going to do that. And it seems to be a problem for the Bears. And maybe that's why they historically have started slow every game this year.
Mm. How far? Obviously, they have the quarterback. The Patriots seem to have the quarterback, and yet they still seem a million miles away from contention. What's it going to take for the Bears?
Well, I think you always need continuity on your offensive line. For the Bears, they have not had continuity, and this goes back to last year. It really was never settled coming out of camp about center and guard and Nate Davis, who they signed to a 3-year, $30 million deal. He was hurt coming out of camp. He was supposed to be the Bears' left guard. But when they signed him, he said, no, I only play right guard. So then he had to play right guard. They had to move Tevin Jenkins, who to me is an all-pro right guard, to now left guard. And so that's been unsettled, and it's been the same this year. This year it's been unsettled between the two guard spots and the left tackle spot. Braxton Jones gets hurt. Amagagi's a rookie in there, and he gets kind of exposed versus the Commanders. And then now last week, all the offensive woes seem to have escalated over to the defensive side of the ball. That was the worst game that they had at stopping the run. And they got gashed. And you could tell they were a team that, in my first experience under Eberflus, kind of checked it in. They checked out.
Wow. What you're saying is sounding a lot like what's happening with the Patriots. Their line can't block. They've moved people around. They haven't had the same guys in, and nobody, can't pass block, can't run. Now they can't even run the ball. And on defense, they can't stop the run. So I guess it sets up for an interesting game between two teams that have all the same problems.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I just think obviously for the Patriots and where the Bears are, they're both rebuilding. I think, that signifies that when you draft a quarterback that high, they're trying to get the resources around the young quarterbacks, but that seems to have backfired here for the Bears so far this year. But I do like the strides the young QB is making. I really do. I think the Bears got it right. And now some players around them need to play a lot better.
You saw Jaden Daniels, obviously, 2 weeks ago when in that lovely game where you lost at the end. What's the difference, or the Commanders are 7-2. They don't have the best offensive line, but what's made it so he's kind of emerged and resurrected that team to be 7-2, whereas, Drake he's technically won a game, the Jets game, but he started, didn't finish it, but he's like 0-3. And, Caleb 4-4. What's the difference do you see to why Jaden Daniels has been more successful?
I think he played a lot of football in college for both Herm Edwards and then what he played for Brian Kelly at LSU. He had over 50 starts. So this is a 5-year starter now. This guy came with a lot of experience, and he's well coached. When I talked to Brian Kelly, they didn't even dabble into what he did well. They thought he threw so well from the pocket, and they had those 3 really good receivers, obviously Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, and that trio of receivers. Brian Kelly really wanted to take advantage of those guys, and Jaden was so accurate from the pocket and such a good pocket passer. He didn't really emphasize the other things he does well, like the bootlegs and the movement plays and how good he is with his legs and the RPO stuff. And they just didn't want to do it because he did the other stuff so well. So I think it's his experience, and I think it's his preparation. I think that's what separates Jaden right now. I think Cliff Kingsbury's got him so dialed in. Like when I went there for training camp, he knew that they were going to do a blitz period next. So he took the whole offensive line down to the end zone and he went through the whole script. All right, here's the blitz, here's the call, and he's calling out everything. He is, no pun intended, the true commander of the commanders, if you know what I mean. So he's very dialed in. And even look at that game that he beat the Bears. How well did he handle that week like a professional? He was hurt from the rib injury. He didn't practice. He did a walkthrough, did a warm up. Coach, I can play. And he went out and he executed the game plan flawlessly for 60 minutes, including a 2-minute situation, Hail Mary situation that he knew exactly how to execute it as well. So what a true pro. Pleasure to watch him.
I know you were at training camp for the Patriots with the show. You saw Drake Maye at that time, and you thought he had work to do.
Yeah, he was rough.
Yeah.
He was rough. He had missed a lot of passes. He had missed the checkdowns. He was inaccurate on things, and I think the first ball he threw was into the dirt. And I remember a coach that told me when that happened, he goes, "Nobody can go fishing today because you're killing all the worms." So he looked nervous. He looked inaccurate. He looked like a rookie, but he's come a long way since that day.
You see the difference though, or from training camp to now. Yeah, we've seen him evolve too. I mean, there's still work to do, but he's definitely evolved.
Right.
Before I let you go, there's some job openings that have come up in the NFL. I know moving the chains has been a favorite stop for Bill Belichick. Do you think he's kind of sitting back and licking his chops and saying, they're, especially the way certain teams are going, Dallas, Jacksonville, not so much Philadelphia, but are you fairly certain he's going to get back on the sideline with one of these teams?
I do. I think he's going to get an opportunity. I do know that the New York Giants are near and dear to his heart. He's because of the Wellington Mara and the Mara family, and obviously the history of Big Blue. But I don't think the Giants are cutting ties with Brian Daboll, so I don't think that'll be an option. But I do think Philadelphia will be an option if Nick Sirianni falters. Dallas, everybody's going to equate because of Jerry Jones, but I think probably the most interesting spot for him would be Jacksonville. Because to me, it's a lot like Foxborough. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Granted, there's a lot of, sprawl there in Jacksonville, but I think Shad Khan would give him the chains to really run what he wants done. And I think he'd give Bill the control that he's looking for. I do. I just think that owner's been thirsting for a long time.
Wow. That'll be interesting. Not the team that most would pick, but an interesting choice too. Conceivably he would have the quarterback with Trevor Lawrence that, wouldn't have to worry about drafting. They're not necessarily rebuilding. And, so there's pieces for him to work with, or perhaps put them over the top or put them in better stead. I think he would put any team in better stead, as a coach. But, if Shad Khan gives him total control, I'm sure Bill will be very interested in that.
Well, and you just look at Jacksonville, it's almost like they're already throwing in the towel. They just traded Cam Robinson, their starting left tackle. Roy Robertson Harris, they traded earlier before the trade deadline was closed. So, it just seems like that owner, I think, is very disappointed. He felt like this was the best team that they have ever assembled, and boy, have they failed in a colossal fashion.
Well, time will tell. A lot of people already here are saying Gerard Mayo's not cut out to be the head coach, but things take time. It's his first rodeo, so he's learning on the job, as they say. And I know there's people out in Chicago calling for Eberflus as well. So it'll be interesting to see what plays out. But looking forward to Sunday and watching these two stud rookies duke it out.
All right. Well, good to be with you, Karen. Should be a good one.